Como les prometimos, Steve Wozniak, cofundador de Apple junto con Steve Jobs, nos regaló una entrevista exclusiva a Excelsior Televisión, donde nos comenta un poco cuáles son las claves que él ve para que un país pueda salir adelante. Principalmente la educación y cómo la tecnología está jugando un papel determinante para que los pequeños puedan manipular la tecnología y lleguen mucho más competitivos una vez que terminan las escuelas. Esto es lo que dijo Steve Wozniak a Hacker TV. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos hoy aquí en Hacker TV de Excelsior Televisión. Y bueno, hoy tenemos una de las grandes personalidades del mundo de la tecnología. Tenemos con nosotros aquí al señor Steve Wozniak, uno de los cofundadores de la compañía Apple y bueno, y todo un gurú de la tecnología. Mr. Wozniak, thank you very much for this interview.
Very nice to be here.
Okay, Mr. Wozniak. My first question is, today the technology is present in all sectors. Now, how to change the education? The technology, how change the education?
Yes, one of the issues is we have such great technology that we love so much that it causes us to think, oh, it's already been made for me. I don't want to be one of those people to make it. There's no need for us anymore because it's gone so far. The funny thing is, there is a huge need for technology change still. I mean, people say, whenever people say things are slowing down, oh, they're speeding up, the change. Look, you know, pick the sort of projects that entice you in your life. You know what? When you learn mathematics, everything you learn when you're young is fun. You say, oh my gosh, I just learned how to do this. I'm going to show my parents. Or I learned about a star in the sky. Or I learned about a planet. I learned something interesting. We're born wanting to learn. And the thing is, how do you make technology desirable to learn? Yeah. You've got to build in a lot of fun. And fortunately, we have aspects, when you create something, you feel proud of creating your own things. And if you can create things that are enjoyable and fun, like games and playthings. The trouble is, mostly schools are organized, education is organized around, you've got to do the same work as everyone else and come out with the same results, and you get a grade. Otherwise, you don't get a grade. You get called dumb. And building the fun in is very, very difficult. It needs a lot of people that have talent, and you can't teach a lot of computer technology very far. You can teach mathematics, you can teach known sciences in the schools, but it's very hard to teach the technology stuff. It's more like a vocation like car maintenance, being a car technician, and yet it's so important in our life. It's such a great vocation. Those who learn it can learn it on their own because of online now. You can learn anything you want online if you get really turned on to it, but how do you discover that you like something? You can't discover, I like computers, or I like soldering wires together and making devices, or I like writing programs, unless you do that at school. So it should be at least available as an option for everyone to encounter, just to discover that maybe this is the thing that's in my heart, and I wouldn't have known it because I would have had to discover it on my own, and nobody else does it.
For you, what is the perfect digital classroom?
The perfect digital classroom is one where there is a lot of fun, there's not a lot of pressure, that the teacher has a small enough class and they can attend every single person that has a problem gets rectified. In a normal classroom situation in schools, a teacher cannot possibly handle every problem that comes up because there might be 30 students. So smaller classes work better than anything else, and also not having grades early on. When you first encounter something, when you have grades, you notice that there's a couple of real smart students, and if you think I'm not one of them, at an early age, even 8 years old, you say school's not for me.
Yes.
So I don't want to lose. I'm more afraid. It's less important to create more of the great super high technology leaders. It's more important not to lose all the people that give up on school at all, because one of them might be a lot of the people that just give up and go out on the street, never get an education, they get very poor jobs in life. They could have been easily the Steve Wozniak or Steve Jobs or the other top people.
Yeah. Now the children use the smartphone, tablets, better for the parents, inclusive of the teachers. Now, is one problem the children use better the devices?
A long time ago, when youngsters got exposed to computers in their school, and then eventually they had computers at home. And yes, we looked at them, and you could say, when I grew up, I think my teachers, whatever they were teaching, they knew more about it than I did. All of a sudden, you had all these young people that knew more about computers and games and technology than their teachers did. Even software they'd learn on their own. And so it was very difficult for the teachers to maintain that role of, I am become your guide in life. And yeah, that changed, and I didn't see that before computers in my life.
Yes. It's possible.
But I'll tell you, here's one thing though.
Yeah.
When I notice that the young people get so adaptive and they learn it so quickly and understand it, all the computer stuff, whether it's a keyboard, a screen, whatever, they get so skilled, I think, you know what? Typical family. I had my own kids. And I think usually in a family, the adults get the most expensive, best computer, and the kids would get some little leftover junk from the prior years. That's wrong. That's backwards. The kids should have the newest, most modern things because they get the most use out of it, and the adults can kind of get by with anything old.
Is this concept of the digital natives?
You don't know. Yes, it's the standard quo, so you don't know what the change was, what life was before it, and it seems very natural. And I have been always for change my whole life, and I still am. So I say, you know, hey, when change happens, that's it. You know, the things that were valued to the older generation that disappear, that's how life goes. That's been true for all humankind. It's just that things may not have changed this fast in the past, but maybe for thousands of years, every single generation thought they had something so different than their parents. I don't know. Just when I grew up and was young, it didn't seem to be changing like this. You know, I thought, oh my gosh, some engineer invented a washing machine, and we don't have to wash our clothes by hand, and that was good for an engineer. But now it's like every week something comes out, whoa, you know, startling, and people are showing it off at school, and they've got the newer one than you do.
The mobility is one key for the learning, for the actuality learning. The mobility, the new devices, for example, the tablets or the smartphone, the children take...
A lot of education is on, so much information is online now. It used to be information was only in your books, in your school books, at school. Now you have a lot of school books, but if you get interested in a subject, you can go explore online so far. You can read so many documents and books. You don't need the library anymore. And you can get stuff that never ever could you even get in a library. You get stuff that's right up to date with super modern things, you know, better than when I grew up, we had a question at the dinner table. I wonder about this, you know, or do you know what about that? My father would grab the World Book Encyclopedia and open it up and get an answer. Well, now whenever a question like that comes up with somebody, you know, I pull out my iPhone and I say, you know, what is the population of Mexico, or you know.
Now, Mr. Wozniak, in your perspective, the evolution of the technology has created more and better humans?
That's a very difficult and pointed question, because sometimes I feel humans love what they got for technology, and obviously a human today is so much more capable with internet searches on getting information that students in prior years couldn't possibly have learned so much on their own. You know, and so this is it's an awkward situation, and I feel very proud of having been a seed of that whole thing that has developed. But I also kind of fear that we're forgetting to learn the basics. What helped me in designing computers, I knew all the basics from how electrons float around atoms and through crystals and wires, and exactly what was going on at the lowest level, and I could build up those little parts and make a computer. But nowadays computers are so huge, they're so big, and so many hundreds of thousands of man hours have gone into writing the software that makes them work. Nobody can think of, I could do this myself. And it gives you an impetus. Why do I want to go down and learn the atomics? Why do I want to learn even how to do algebra even? Where am I going to ever need algebra in my life? You'll find very, very few examples for most people. Only a certain few small quantity of people will need it. And that's a problem, because you used to have a person that was very smart that knew how to maybe design a bridge. Now what smartness designs a bridge is knowing how to run the program that designs the bridge.
Yeah, today all gadgets, the new gadgets, monitor all exercise, steps, physical activity. Is good or is bad with these new gadgets?
Well, it's optional. It's voluntary. That means the people that want it have it. The people that don't want it don't have it. So it's good. It's definitely good. Monitoring your activities in life. Now, what I don't like is when you don't expect to be monitored. I'm sending an email to a friend. I don't expect that somebody is collecting that email and might in a later day say, didn't you say this to so-and-so? that would be, I mean, oh, it's horrible what could happen to people that way. So that kind of monitoring I don't like. But the machines are getting smart. They're looking at how do we live our life? What is human life? How can we make a machine that helps us live our human life and do things we did before? Before computers, people tried to measure, keep track on themselves on paper. It's just the computer automates it. Our smartphones automate it. Our smart watches, you know, automate it. The fitness bands automate that sort of thing. And I think that's very good. Yeah. I don't think everybody necessarily wants it. You know what? If you don't care about it, don't buy it. Don't use it.
Yes, but in this case, for example, many companies take this information, these dates, and maybe is one thing of cybersecurity.
Well, all of the information that is stored by any big companies, or look at you, I'm a busy computer person, so I have tons and tons of accounts on the cloud. They're on the cloud. I have things stored, I have things that I use, I have aspects of it that do things for me and watch for airlines and notifying Facebook is an account. You know, this is all out there on the web, and all of it can be penetrated, and all the time you hear about huge numbers of personal information. Yeah. Maybe it's email addresses, maybe it's even passwords, maybe it's social security numbers that get snagged from a company server, and we only hear about the ones that talk about it. How many more of those must be going on a huge scale? Just today, some major organization in the USA, I think the CIA, said that every single major corporation in the US has already been penetrated by Chinese, and they've taken all the information out. That's a different life than I grew up with. Of course, you always oppose things that are different than what you grew up with. But maybe that's just the future, and people will get used to that and just expect it to be the normal.
Yeah, it's also of the Internet of Things, all connected, and the cybersecurity is one important.
Well, people, you speak of the Internet of Things the way that I originally interpreted it, which was all things, all connected. The Internet of Things right now basically means things, appliances in your life, everything around the house, you know, that you might have or use, or parts of your life, your belt, they might be connected to the Internet somehow. And already we can go on our phones and we can check the status of lights and security cameras and thermometers in our homes. We're having a one-way communication, but they aren't talking to themselves the way you said. Yet, they're not talking to themselves. How will they talk to themselves? Will they go over the Internet with TCP/IP just to talk to something that's in the same room? Or I think we're going to have local networks as well. We need some local languages by which devices. Maybe one device knows the temperature, but it doesn't see the room. But maybe it can talk to another device that can see the room. Or maybe it can hear. Maybe it can actually map, they can start mapping rooms on their own. Who knows what it's going to be, but they need a language to communicate. Apple had a language called AppleScript, which I think is an excellent example, because in AppleScript, there was no formal language. Every program that came in and became part of AppleScript added its own elements to the language, its own verbs, its own nouns. So possibly, I think you could eventually have devices in a home saying who's out there, and other ones respond, and then it says what is your dictionary, and it sends its vocabulary of terms that it can. And if I know those terms, now I can ask it what temperature it feels on its side of the room, or does it sense a person near it? You know, and because eventually I think our devices are going to know everywhere we're walking in the house, and then.
In this case, what is the difference between the security and the privacy?
Well, a lot of things are sold to us by our government. This will make you more secure, and it's actually making us less private. They're actually selling us the lack of privacy, the monitoring of everything we do, and under the guise of being security, because now we can take care of you better, we can watch out for you better. The security I want is the security know that I'm private when I think I'm private, and that includes my email. That's what I want.
In your perspective, what is the good, what is the bad of the technology?
The good is that, oh my gosh, we feel more powerful than we ever felt. We feel we can get things done. It's almost like you had televisions in the long past had no remote controls. And all of a sudden you had a remote control. You could sit on the couch and do everything. You felt more like a Superman. And technology makes us feel like, I can do all these incredible things, and I know that without this one device, the other ways, I might not be able to do it. Yeah. The other day, I was actually on a Segway in a foreign town. And the name of my mall, and the address was wrong, and I didn't know what hotel or where it was, and I didn't know anybody in the city. I didn't even have the right phone number for the hotel. How do I get back to my hotel?
Yeah.
I can't plug it into a navigation system. Oh no, I was kind of helpless, like you're saying. You know, we get to the point that young people, millennials, if they lose a navigation system or their smartphone, they can't get around. They don't know how to use maps like we came up familiar with.
And the bad?
Well, that's the bad. The bad came with the good. We feel powerful. We got all this power, but the trouble is we also give up learning what it's built on, learning the basics. So education of how it works is not that important. We still teach the same things in school we taught before computers, before smartphones, and those topics don't cover anything about, you know, what is really inside of a smartphone even. And so we don't care. We don't care about how does a smartphone do its navigation? How does a smartphone get data about flights and all that? We don't care about that. So when error messages come up, or if we're left without it, what do I do? What do I do? We don't even know. Oh, you call an airline, by the way.
Yes, my final question is, what's .org, the organization?
When the internet was very young, you could get a three-letter .com.
Yeah.
So I got woz.com, and then it was obvious to me that .com, everybody wanted their name .com. But you know what? I don't want to be like everybody else, for one thing. And secondly, .com is for companies.
Yes.
And all of the non-profits. I was on museum boards and things like that, and then the non-profits were .orgs. And I felt more like, in my heart, I'm really a non-profit person. I never even started Apple to make money, and so I'm going to use steve@woz.org as my email. So I use woz.org. If you send an email to me at woz.com, yes, I get it. I get it, but I don't use it because I'd rather be a person. I'm not a company.
It's great organization. No? It's one great organization.
Oh my gosh, you know, I'm thinking, what harm are these things? You're not stopping anything really harmful that I can see.
Well,
yeah, so that's sad to see. And will anybody ever come up with a way to make the internet totally free again? We hope there would. Almost every single, you know, liberal-minded technologist wants to think of a way, but we haven't thought of it yet.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for this interview. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Good questions. I love that.
Acabamos de hablar con Steve Wozniak, como les comentaba, uno de los cofundadores de la compañía Apple, y bueno, nos acaba de comentar muchos temas bien interesantes que bueno, ya nos estaremos contando. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Te invitamos a seguir cuestionando la información con los siguientes videos.